So today we're gonna have a look at one of these game news outlets. Now, in a way, they are very similar to conspiracy theorists. Meaning, they make up shit as they go along to serve their narrative, with a good dose of clickbait to get them views, almost as if they are no longer relevant. I mean, to be quite honest, whenever I want some information about a certain game, I just go to one of the Let's Players that has videos on it, to mostly see what the game is all about, instead of going to these news outlets with their narrative-driven drivel.
Valve does whatever the hell it wants. This isn't shocking, considering the massive amounts of wealth and influence the company enjoys in the video game industry.
Yes, almost as if they are one of the most successful game design companies in the world. Which is in a way odd, because they don't really release that many games. Yet even with their limited game library, they are still among the best. Almost as if they are good at what they do.
The surprising part is how players respond positively to Valve over and over again.
Well, I don't know, maybe it's because they release really good games when they release games.
Even when the company's announcements feel more like a slap in the face. It's unclear just how much money Valve pulls in each year, since it's a private entity and doesn't have to publicly disclose its finances.
Even if their announcements are a slap in the face and now you're going on about their net worth? What does that have to do with the quality of the stuff they produce? I mean, let's get something really straight here. Valve is always trying to envision their own ideas into games they release, having the luxury of taking their time working on their games until completion before releasing it, and always setting a new standard in game design whenever they do release something. And yes, being a private company, they're not being pushed by investors and shareholders to release the same cookie-cutter cash cow game every year. Instead, being able to incorporate new ideas, pushing new technologies, actually supporting the modding community and small indie game developers ever since the company was erected. How dare they not fall in line with the industry standard? How dare they have a different way of working on their games? I mean, the sheer audacity of that. Well, shit. I do apologize by simply destroying your entire video in one short talky bit. I mean, apart from the mere fact I cannot stand these so-called news outlets willingly spouting lies with such sheer confidence packaged in a neat clickbait video. Well, no, that's basically it. But hey, please continue, Engadget lady, Jessica Conditt, senior editor of Engadget. Entertain us some more. We do need a good laugh in these trying times, and guess who just volunteered for Jester status?
But estimates of its annual revenue begin at $4 billion. Valve founder Gabe Newell is personally worth $3.5 billion, according to Forbes.
Phenomena Gaming at Gaben at Valve Software PC Master Race.
The company's main money fountain is Steam, which has been the top PC gaming platform for more than a decade, with 1 billion registered accounts and an average of 90 million monthly active users. And that's just Steam.
Yep, seems about right. Also 62 in your wishlist. Seems like you are also a fan of Steam, eh?
Valve also owns a library of legendary video game franchises, including Half-Life, Left 4 Dead, Portal, Counter-Strike, Dota, and Team Fortress. Plus it has a hardware division, building experimental consoles and virtual reality headsets.
Yeah, it's almost as if they push the frontier of game and hardware development and design, because they got lots of money.
Including the HTC Vive line and Valve's own device, the Index. With an abundance of resources at its disposal and no stockholders to answer to, Valve routinely operates outside the boundaries of logical consumerism.
Oh, let me stop you right there, lady. Logical consumerism. So basically consuming the same game over and over again each year because the game design studios release the same game over and over again. That is, in your eyes, good?
In fact, many of its decisions are blatantly anti-consumer, flying in the face of what players and developers actually want.
Example.
Valve forces players to use specific platforms.
Yeah, because Valve has basically taken care of all the logistics of rolling out updates, patches, and general data hosting for game design studios, which is especially amazing for small or one-man indie game developers. Not to mention giving them complete access to one of the biggest game stores on the planet. And mind you, they don't force these studios to release their games exclusively on the Steam platform.
Shuts down revenue streams for developers, and shows little interest in building the games and sequels that fans are desperate to play.
So here I am, waiting for this whole anti-consumer clickbait stuff you're implying. I mean, Steam is not the only platform that forces its user to use the platform to play the game, and Steam just so happens to have an offline mode as well. But are you really trying to imply that Origin, GOG, and the Epic Game Launcher, and so on, are also not doing the exact same thing? It's an industry standard for a reason. And what is this about their cut of the revenue stream, which is around 30% for hosting and managing the game files for each game? Hey, guess what, lady? That is also an industry standard every other platform I just mentioned takes. Also, anti-consumer? Sure, with all its amazing social features, friends list, achievements, server browser, workshops for certain games. Yes, that's definitely anti-consumer. You gotta love the unfounded hatred flowing from your woo-hole there. And what's that about them not releasing new games the people want? They are a game design studio in no way obligated to release games people want. I mean, based on their cash flow from Steam itself, they don't even have to make games anymore. Yet they are stepping back into the ring with Half-Life Alyx. Not to mention helping all kinds of other smaller game designers with their VR stuff and their hardware related things. It's not like Valve has been sitting on the sideline. They have been actively engaged, just not releasing games, but they have been actively engaged with other people's games, getting them to run on certain platforms in VR. I mean, it's a well-known fact they have been investing a lot in the new VR standard behind the scenes. You want to know something about that? They don't even take credit for it.
The company consistently offloads its moderation duties, and when its veteran writing team left, Valve bought Firewatch studio Camposanto, only to cancel development on its highly anticipated next project in the Valley of Gods.
How strange. So it's like games never get cancelled. And also, the development team for that game, they are developing Half-Life Alyx right now. So, did you call yourself a game journalist there? Or a news outlet? Game news outlet? Don't you guys need to do some kind of bloody research before you talk your talky bit, you know? I mean, this is just like someone has hired you and you're just reading off some script someone else wrote for you, because it really sounds like you haven't a clue what you're talking about.
However, the most recent example of Valve's bad attitude is Half-Life Alyx. When it comes out on March 23rd, Alyx will be the first Half-Life game in 13 years. Valve released the original Half-Life in 1998, and its sequel, Half-Life 2, in 2004. Both titles were incredibly popular, but Half-Life 2 became an instant classic. It defined a genre of narrative-driven first-person shooters, and players were eager for more.
Wow, did you just conflate Half-Life 2 with Half-Life 1 there? The original was actually the one that set the standard for narrative-driven scripted defense. And, you know, now you give that credit to Half-Life 2, which actually redefined how physics works. Because they were working with Havoc, you know, the Havoc engine, which has been used in a lot of games right now to have the barrels roll. You know, we didn't have rolling barrels before that. Well, I'm pretty sure we didn't. Pretty sure. I mean, the original trailer for Half-Life was basically them showing off their scripted events and narrative-driven stories. While the first footage for Half-Life 2 was mostly aimed at the physics, how they could, manipulate the environment and have puzzles using that very same concept. Not to mention introducing all kinds of shaders. I mean, it really pisses me off when a so-called news outlet lady is just making up shit as she goes along. That is the basic shit about Half-Life's history, and you just fucked it up. Oh my.
Valve quickly announced a follow-up, but split it into 3 parts. Episode 1 landed in 2006, and Episode 2 came out in 2007. Fans have been begging Valve to release Half-Life Episode 3 for 13 years, and the company has largely responded with silence. This relationship has led to a strange form of digital Stockholm Syndrome and branded paranoia, where players see clues about the game in every announcement Valve makes, desperate to believe their pleas are being heard.
Wait. So this entire video, you are going into conspiracy lands now, aren't you? So, for those of you who don't know, Valve and Valve Time, those are basically memes, right? And there's also a meme going on about Valve not being able to count to 3. We have Team Fortress 2, Left 4 Dead 2. Even their first Dota game is called Dota 2. Then of course there's Portal and Portal 2. All of these games don't have a third iteration of their game, but it is a meme. And now she actually is talking about people being really paranoid and looking on the internet for clues about their precious Half-Life 3? Wait, did I just walk into some kind of flat Earth territory or other conspiracy lands? I mean, this is really, familiar somehow. Was that? I haven't. I'm still in game design lands. Yeah? Well, she must be really desperate if this is what she's going on about. Oh, wow, that's just painful. And I'll be right back.
Chop chop, run along!
Half-Life Alyx isn't Half-Life Episode 3. As it stands, Valve still hasn't updated fans on the status of Episode 3. Instead, Alyx is a prequel, set between the events of Half-Life and Half-Life 2. Oh, and it's only playable on VR platforms.
Well, there's an inherent problem with having a VR game being played as a normal game, because mouse and keyboard is vastly superior to VR headsets in terms of being able to shoot and aim and move. The game is being designed around the virtual reality movement, so it is slower and it is easier to shoot stuff, because they basically had to slow down the game for that very same reason. However, the funny thing is, your video hasn't aged well at all, because as of right now, there's a modder called Vector, who's now trying to recreate Half-Life 2, the environments and the assets, in the new Source engine they created for Half-Life Alyx. Now, it's true, they haven't released the official SDK yet, software development kit, but this guy is so good at it, and modders have been doing this for ages now, just, breaking into the engine and figuring out how it works and then just make a new mod. It's kinda like how Counter-Strike was created, which just so happened to be an official Valve game, because they hired the modding team, and Gabe is aware of Vector here. He is really impressed as well, so there might be a chance he basically hires him. Because that's kinda how Valve does its thing. But yes, please tell me more about your anti-consumer claim.
And it'll work best on the Index, Valve's proprietary VR headset that costs $1,000.
Oh, hell no. Screw you, lady. You're trying to imply something here, that it is only playable on... Well, not really yet, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna do that. Also, it is the most expensive and newest headset. Of course it's gonna be the best one. But it does also work with others. But the experience is obviously going to be best with the Index. You're now comparing something that costs around $1,000 to something that costs around $400. Of course there's gonna be a difference.
Shockingly, this strategy hasn't alienated Valve's fans. In fact, most players are expressing excitement for this VR-only, prohibitively expensive Half-Life prequel.
Ooh, wow, that's some dishonest crap right there. Oh boy, really. So, you're indirectly implying that it only works with the Index, because, VR experience is expensive, when in fact it also works with other VR gear. As a matter of fact, the sales has gone up for the cheaper versions, not actually the Index. Of course, if you have money laying around, you're gonna get an Index. That is if you want to have the best experience playing this game. Not to mention what I just mentioned, a VR game is not going to be as interesting to play on a mouse and keyboard because it is, for all intents and purposes, too easy. You can't just simply port a VR game with the same gameplay elements to a keyboard and mouse experience. It doesn't work like that. Holy hell, man, that's basic game design.
And online hubs are buzzing with praise and intrigue. It's being hailed as the software savior of the VR industry, driving an increase in headset sales across the board.
Well, no shit, Sherlock.
But particularly for the Valve Index.
Huh, strange. I see something different in this graph.
Valve sold 103,000 Index kits and depleted its stock in the final 3 months of 2019 amid the announcement of Half-Life Alyx, according to Superdata Research.
And you're conveniently going to ignore the other ones, basically outclassing it in every way, shape, and form. I mean, look at that. PlayStation VR, 338K. Oculus Quest, 317K. And then all the way down, 103K. Valve Index. Come on now. Don't be a dick flute, lady. I guess that's the difference between looking at something without bias and looking at something with a narrative. And just to counter your claim that it is not the savior of VR, it is basically the first fully fledged game from a AAA company. So, there's that. Most of the VR games tended to be small demos or really short, small little games. Now finally we have a huge player in the field of VR game design, and you say, Nuh-uh, that's not fair. But are you stupid? What's going on here? I don't get it.
The company restocked on March 9th and sold out the same day. This is a classic Valve move. Forced adoption is exactly how the company got so many people happily hooked on Steam in 2004.
Oh wow, and there it is. You're basically saying forced adoption. People are not, forced to buy things or even forced to buy their particular Index VR gear. You just showed us a graph of other possible VR gear. And now you're saying it's forced to die. Are you fucking insane? I mean, what the hell is this? This is the most dishonest crap I've ever seen. And I've dealt with flat earthers.
Half-Life 2 was the first title that made Steam a requirement. Even with physical discs, players had to install Valve's client in order to play the game. By 2011, Valve had sold more than 12 million copies of Half-Life 2, and Steam had a stranglehold on the PC gaming market.
Wow, a strangle. Wow, that's some loaded language right there. A stranglehold. There were plenty of alternatives. There still are plenty of alternatives to play your games. You're just a dishonest little liar, aren't you? My word, that's actually disgusting behavior. I mean, flat earthers lie, but they are so obvious in their lies, and you just gloss over it like you're actually talking from some position of authority. When it's blatantly obvious, someone wrote a script for you and you are actually the senior editor. So, tell me, Jessica, are things so desperate over at your silly little news outlet for games that you have to resort to this, sewer-level journalism?
Valve's anti-consumer tendencies aren't contained to the Half-Life franchise. The company is notoriously unable to count to 3 in any of its established series, leaving fans hanging after Left 4 Dead 2 in 2009, Portal 2 in 2011, and of course Half-Life Episode 2 in 2007. And then there's Team Fortress 2, a competitive class-based multiplayer shooter that's also been running since 2007. In an era of Overwatch, Fortnite, and live streaming, Team Fortress 2 could have been a top-tier esports title.
Yes, because every game in history has to become a top-tier Twitch esport game. Get the fuck out of here, man. Team Fortress at some point was a top-tier esports game in some way. Not to the levels we currently have with the current generation of games. But they did have top-tier esports for Team Fortress 2. So Valve is still supporting this game. It's a 13-year-old game and it is still supporting this game. So what the hell are you on about? I don't see any other game design company supporting a game that's over 13 years old. I mean, the game is still kind of fun in a way, but it is a really old game. Why is there any request for this becoming a Twitch ultra high level competitive esports game? What the hell is this obsession with esports game these days? The mere fact it is still being played by so many people is more than enough of its legacy, But why should an old game like this be forced to compete with newer games? I mean, that's just, the logic here is just non-existent and grossly uninformed.
But instead, Valve let the game languish. As of 2017, Valve had just 16 people on the TF2 development team, and even then, they weren't full-time. When news of the TF2 team size hit Reddit, players joked that it was likely composed of voice actors, janitors, and folks simply passing by.
At that time, it was already 11 years old. What the hell is wrong with you, lady? Don't you brain? Where's your brain? Did you lose your brain? Oh, what's that? That's insulting. Well, yeah, it's actually insulting to people without brains. I'm just wondering what your beef is with Valve. I mean, it seems personal. Also, name me one other company that supports a game after 11 years or after 13 years. Just name me one. One other than Valve. I'm guessing id Software would be one of those because they kind of still support Doom, the original one.
Even in the midst of repeated disappointment, that's generally the response Valve gets from Steam users. Laughter and a sense of camaraderie.
Yeah, that's because that's what the entire Steam community is about. I mean, how dare they still support the game after 11 years, or even 13 years? You seem to be digging in some kind of past. Is there anything relevant today you can talk about? Because everything you said that was relevant in today is utter horseshit.
As if players are in on whatever joke the multi-billion-dollar company is playing on them. There's a cottage industry of friendly, Valve-related memes revolving around the number 3 and hailing Gabe Newell as the patron saint of PC gaming.
In nomine gaming at Gabe and at Valve Software PC Master Race.
Valve's business-first mentality extends to developers on Steam as well. Early on, Valve established a revenue-sharing model, giving the company 30% of the sales from any game on Steam, leaving developers with a 70% share.
I mean, you do know that all the others do the same thing, you know, the 30% cut of their share. That's kind of the industry standard.
And then the Epic Games Store launched in late 2018, offering developers an 88% cut. Independent studios rejoiced, and a handful of high-profile titles were announced as timed exclusives on the Epic Store.
Huh, that's a selective hate boner you have there. I mean, where is this hatred for the Epic Game Launcher? People only install that because Fortnite uses it. That is literally the only reason, and we all know what happened to all these game design studios who went there. They all came crawling back to Steam.
Soon after, the Discord store announced it would offer developers 90%. If Valve were any other company, it would have seen the positive response its competitors received from the developer community and altered its revenue-sharing model to match the new standard.
Oh wow, I didn't think you could get any more stupid. So for a standard in the industry, it has to be adopted by the bigger companies, right? Because Discord store, Epic Game Launcher, they're tiny. They are in no way, shape or form the standard of the industry. Not to mention, if people have their game on GOG, Steam, or even Origin for that matter, they will sell a buttload more games. So of course all these game developers come back to Steam or the likes, you know? Also, the others also still have the 30% cut, so why are you so angry at Steam and Valve? Because they're, you know, doing this industry standard.
Instead, Valve started offering developers a 75% cut of future revenue only once a game made $10 million, and an 80% cut after $50 million. Essentially, Valve didn't change its policies at all.
Huh. Seems to me, essentially, they did. Hey, lady, good luck trying to get up to 10 million or 50 million on the Epic Game Store. People don't want the Epic Game Store. They just don't. They don't. You know why? There's not even a social platform on that thing. I mean, what the hell are you gonna do with that thing? It's only a store. Now, mind you, this might change, but why? Why would we install Epic Game Store? Just to play Fortnite? I don't play Fortnite.
Clearly, Valve doesn't need to regularly churn out smash hit series installments, jump on trends, or offer competitive deals to developers.
Clearly, they just offer their biggest internet store for video games on the entire planet, superb support for their software development kit. The Steamworks integration works marvelously. You can get achievements. They actually have all that shit programmed and you can just trigger it. It's all made for development of games. No other platform has that. No other platform has that. And that's not even mentioning the bloody community page and the workshop page, which you can integrate into your game so people can make mods really easily for your game using Steamworks.
With Steam passively generating billions of dollars a year, Valve is free to ignore outside creative constraints and consumer desires in equal measure. That's not to say this situation is completely terrible.
I know, right? You might want to delete this video, lady. What the fuck is this even?
Valve has proven to be an innovative powerhouse, and when the studio is good, it's really, really good. Even though Steam comes with its own set of third-party restrictions, the service was a lighthouse during the dark days of digital rights management in the mid-2000s.
And even when you are praising them, you're basically still bashing them for the third-party restrictions? What the hell is that even? I mean, let me explain something to you. Can you play your Xbox game on your PlayStation, or your PlayStation game on your Nintendo, or back in the day, your Sega game on your Nintendo? I mean, what the hell are you going on about, lady? This is just not something new. This is... Sometimes games are restricted to certain platforms. However, Steam doesn't restrict games to their platform. If you have a game on Steam, you can also release it on some other platform. So shut your lying woo hole.
And it remains the largest repository of PC titles today. And when Valve does actually release a game, it tends to be fantastic. Like, spawn a new genre of video games fantastic.
Delete your video.
I guess that's why players will wait 13 years to be excited about the wrong game coming to a limited platform.
Yes, because playing a VR-only game in a keyboard and mouse environment is a really, really, really good idea. Because it would be so interesting steamrolling every freaking enemy. Oh, for fuck's sake, you are so silly. You talk about games, but you have no idea what games are, do you? Delete this video. I mean, seriously, it's just an embarrassing shit stain on the internet by now.
Just like with Steam, Valve is the only company that can deliver this experience. And in both instances, there isn't really any other choice.
You know, to be quite honest, it is quite interesting seeing your brain bounce around like a pinball machine on a subject you clearly have no idea what you're talking about. Of course they are the only company being able to do this. It is literally the first fully fledged AAA VR game. And somehow this is a bad thing. Because a game, specifically with gameplay design in mind for VR gear, cannot be played on keyboard and mouse or even, gamepad. Mind you, there are modders already at work trying to get it to work, so, your video is not gonna age well. It already doesn't age well. But hey, more power to you if you want to tie your name and your company's name to this garbage journalism. Clickbait some more, lady.
Subscribe and stay tuned to Engadget.com for all the video game news.
Now, I've been to your channel page and I tried to click the subscribe button, but my integrity is preventing my finger from clicking the button, so there's that. So without further ado, Jessica Conditt, writer and presenter of this particular hit piece? Well, that's embarrassing. I sentence you to become a jester in the Order of the Sillies. I do hope you enjoy your stay. And you Spiffies, you know what to do. If you made it through this, holy hell, it's already 25 minutes. Haha, I'm proud of you guys. Oh boy, you made it to the end. Well, remember to tickle the bell and all buttons around it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
One of the great things about the PC is that it's a great development environment for programmers and for development teams.